Okay, I'm trying something. It's like I'm starting to put my Quilt As You Go binding on. I've cut the width line or border, excuse me, making my quilt top that I have made wider. I've cut my 6.5 inch backing material. I've got my front border material, and I'm getting them assembled together. And I pin my back about every 10, 12 inches. Then I go back with my front border and I pin that in between. So there's a pin about every 10 inches. So let me finish pinning this up real fast. And then these are right sides together, just so anybody that don't get confused. I hold about 5 inches, pin at 10. It's always better to put one on first than the other. And I made mine a little bit wider or longer, so I have excess. I started about an inch out, went an inch beyond. If you want, you can pull that pin up and hold both, the, the back one. It's totally up to you what you think. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And it's like, I've never recorded off of my laptop, but it does let me have where I can see what's going on a little bit more than my iPad. I don't know the quality, don't know. And this one here, I just made it. I put too much on the other end. But now that that's pinned, move some stuff off my, because it'll be on the floor. Because the bulk of the material is going to be between the sewing machine and the camera. So I have to make sure that table part is cleaned. And I'm going to go ahead and move a couple more of these up. Just because I am working in a small area. I could move this out to the big countertop, but I don't think we'd have what we see here. Okay. Make sure everything just kind of lines up. And you want to sew this in a true 1/4 inch. That's what I always want to do. So this video will just be one part of what's going on. And then there'll be another one showing you how I put the sashing or the batting in this border, because you don't want to add bulk here. And when I go to put the batting on, it's like this front border is 6. Now it's 5 3/4. So I will cut my batting at 6 because I'd rather have too much. I'd rather have extra sticking out. But you just sit it up against this that I'm sewing right now. And you just butt it up, and then I zigzag the two together. They're just butted up together, and then I zigzag across the seam allowance and the edge of the batting so it doesn't move. And then go out to a bigger surface, and I press the back open, and then I press the top over top of the batting, and then I do several pins Then I put it on a larger stitch and I basted around the edge. And at that point, you can decide if you want to do one more additional stitch. But on this one, I think I'm just going to walk along when this is open, because my batting is good for, I think it's 8 inches apart that I'm using. I hunt for the batting with the biggest apart gap. It just makes sure that your batting doesn't shift. So just having this one here and then it hooked out here in the binding should be more than enough. But it's like, if you don't think it is, like on this one, I could come out here, go along this black, back in and down again. It's like, there's a couple different directions on this one. You can do a serpentine stitch and as big as it goes. That's a good quick meandering one. And this quilt that I'm working on is the mosaic tile. It's like you break a tile apart and put it back together. I still have a bunch of threads I have to get rid of. I put this aside as soon as I got it off of the long arm to finish other projects. I have projects every now and then that move what I'm working on to a different part of my list, my UFO list. But I just finished that quilt top, so it's on hold. The pieces down below are part of the wonky block swap that we did. The other projects that are UFOs right now, they need to hold for a little bit longer because there's all the sashing and the borders have to be purchased. So I have to do the ones I have the stuff for first, because I am trying to stick to my list I made, the rules I made, do what I have for now, and then buy later. And then I buy as I need. This quilt's been on hold for a little while. And I'm coming up with some extra on the top, so I had a little bit of slack, which is fine. It's going to work out at the bottom here shortly. And it's like, I don't know if I can pause this one or not. I'm experimenting with this video way. As long as I don't get a phone call. This morning when I couldn't sleep, we had no internet. There was an email saying, sorry for the interruption. We're working on it as fast as possible. It's like, then when I did get back to sleep, I didn't want to get up. That seems like that's normal. This quilt here because it has the black accent, I went with a black dark backing, and then I quilted it with black, so it doesn't show up as much, but all these tiles have got stitches around their edges, not into the black. I'm not a good person for following the lines very well. It's like, that's me. But it's my quilt. I don't look for imperfections. I look for flipped over seams, seams that might be 1/8 inch, but it's like, that's part of quilting. And then when you do wash it and it gets that wrinkly look, it doesn't even show up. But the 1/8 inch seams might not make it through the life of a quilt. I want to make the quilt have a life that's longer, if you know what I mean. It's like my grandma's is still around, and that one is 71 years old. It's like, yeah, because it's older than I am, and my brother's 2 years older than I am, or 18 months, whichever we want to call it. Well, I think he's 2 years. That's 2 plus, or almost 2. But I want my quilts to be around as long as my grandma's. And an 1/8 inch seam, I don't think it's going to make it. I already had one quilt that I made 30 years ago. One of the fabrics failed throughout the log cabin quilt. And then I had to go back and fix those. And the only way I could fix those is I tore the whole quilt apart, took the binding off, took the undid all the ties, took the batting out, opened it all up again, and then started doing some of these decorative stitches that comes on our machines over those seams after I put some stabilizer, because it was the fabric, and that fabric is used in every inch of that quilt. It's like it's used throughout the whole thing. Every log cabin block has it in it. So it does look, because even the ones that didn't fall apart got that top stitching. And that top stitching is going to be on every block to make it look like it's a planned, not a repair. Even though I know it's a repair, I do know it's a repair, that's for sure. Because I washed that quilt probably at least once a month for 20 years. And I'm just proud to say it stayed together. That was my first ever, more than a few pieces. I did 4 patches, but that was the first one that took a lot of pieces. And then the other thing I did, which I don't know if it helped it or didn't help it, is everybody said, oh, you can serge a quilt pieces together. So I used the serger on that because my daughter was using my only sewing machine because she wanted to make one too. And she wasn't a sewer. She is still not a sewist. She's a cross stitcher. But I'll show you this now. It's like, go up here to this other end. So here's the back, folded open. And then when you fold open this one, I made the back long, wider than the front. So when it goes together, it looks like it's all part of the quilt. So I'm going to see if the pause works, and if it does, I'll go cut me a batting. If it doesn't, then I'll make a part 2.